A person said, "Though I do think people should rationalize more, I do miss the feeling. Ever since I started listening to my guts more, I found my way in life became easier." So, basically, I think there is a balance between listening/reading, using your brains, and listening to your guts or water, or whatever you want to call it. Oh, and not thinking you know the only way. Because that is the start of a lot of hate. People thinking they know everything and therefore are allowed to exclude. Did I get your point? Or should I listen to it again? You're not capable of getting the point because you're not rational. Anyone who says there is no absolute truth is in fact stating an absolute truth, that there is no absolute truth, hence automatically contradicting themselves. How could anyone establish that there is no absolute truth beyond merely stating such a belief? They will never be able to prove it since, having rejected absolute truth, there is no objective means to prove anything at all. Equally, those who say that people cannot know everything are making a claim that they cannot possibly know to be true. People who include everything, any old claim, in the truth are in fact thereby excluding the truth, since if all paths and all truths are right, nothing is excluded, then there is no means to say that anything is true, because infinite contradictory claims are accepted as true even though they can't be as a result of their contradiction of each other. You should never get into any debate with any woke, inclusive, love and lighter. It's pointless. These people are brain dead and are driven by their guts, or their water, not by any glimmer of intelligence. They find reason and logic, knowledge and absolute truth, hateful. She's. Love and lighters automatically oppose exclusion because, so they say, it leads to hate. But, by stating this, they themselves are excluding the excluders and thus generating hate. Love and lighters are amongst the most hateful people on earth because they choose to hate everyone who stands for truth, knowledge, objective reality and anything at all that is exclusionary. They immediately start trolling and causing fights with anyone who doesn't agree with their extremist inclusionist position, and they are so stupid that they don't realize they are troublemakers provoking conflict. So much for inclusion. So much for love. Meaningless. Why is it so hard for new ideas to break through in the West? It's because the West is all about the irrational, emotional id, hence about pleasure, not about meaning. The West is suffering a catastrophic crisis of meaning because it has sacrificed meaning for pleasure. The relentless pursuit of one pleasure after another does not lead to any meaning, but to total emptiness of the soul. Pleasure, unless it is supported by a platform of meaning, gets more and more meaningless and elusive. It's self-sabotaging. If the meaning of your life is to find meaning in the never-ending pursuit of pleasure, you will be sorely disappointed. You ought to read Schopenhauer. If every desire were satisfied as soon as it arose, how would men occupy their lives? How would they pass the time? Imagine this race transported to a utopia where everything grows of its own accord and turkeys fly around ready roasted, where lovers find one another without any delay and keep one another without any difficulty. In such a place some men would die of boredom or hang themselves, some would fight and kill one another, and thus they would create for themselves more suffering than nature inflicts on them as it is. Hedonism is not easy, as everyone discovers. It obeys the law of diminishing returns. It takes stronger and stronger stimulation to reach the same level of pleasure as before. It's a hamster wheel, getting harder and harder to push round. We need a society based on meaning, not on pleasure, but predatory capitalist consumerism has no interest in meaning because it's so difficult to monetize. Pleasure, on the other hand, is simplicity itself to monetize. People will pay anything for pleasure. And so predatory capitalism is about pleasure and nothing else. That's why Westerners' lives are meaningless and they are suffering a mental health pandemic. If you choose a degraded economic system, you get a degraded humanity. Humanity is being destroyed by predatory capitalism. Literally. But who cares so long as the fat cats are getting fatter? The wreckers. Who ruined the modern world? Right at the front of the line are the beatniks and hippies, the advance guard of the counterculture. They drove the modern obsession with hedonism and self-expression, with personal pleasure-seeking as the highest good. They wanted to find themselves, to discover the authentic self. They created a society obsessed with free love, sex, drugs and rock and roll, non-conformism, but in a highly conformist way, anarchism, consumerism, Eastern mysticism and New Ageism, subjectivism and relativism, postmodernism, hatred of the absolute truth, rejection of objectivity, love and light, the culture of meditation and mindfulness, virtue signaling, humble bragging, snowflakery. They invented wokeness. By the time they were finished, all concepts and standards of excellence and quality were gone. All that remained was mass mediocrity. Everywhere, empty narcissists expressed themselves into the vacuum. Loudly. W.B. Yeats said, "And what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born? It's fucking wokeness. Abort the fucker." T.S. Eliot wrote, "Here we go round the prickly pear, prickly pear, prickly pear. Here we go round the prickly pear at 5 o'clock in the morning. Between the idea and the reality, between the motion and the act, falls the shadow. The beatniks and hippies have had the last laugh. This brave new world we're all in now is cast in their image." Thanks, guys. The difficulty. It's hard to invent any new ways to satisfy the id. Humanity has been pandering to it for thousands of years. Consumer capitalism is all about producing products and services to gratify the id and stave off its insatiable hunger for a moment or two. It always comes back for more. You can never buy it off. This monkey never gets off your back. Consumer capitalism, having already exhausted every possibility, is in the business of recycling old tricks, bringing back the hits of yesteryear. So, in the 2020s, we can look forward to a replay of the roaring 20s of the last century. The flappers will be back, and the speakeasies, and the whole prohibition and gangsters theme. It's bootleg time. Get out your Tommy gun. The Grand Tour. Wikipedia says, the Grand Tour was the 17th and 18th century custom of a traditional trip through Europe undertaken by upper-class young European men of sufficient means and rank, typically accompanied by a chaperone, such as a family member, when they had come of age, about 21 years old. The primary value of the Grand Tour lay in its exposure to the cultural legacy of classical antiquity and the Renaissance, and to the aristocratic and fashionably polite society of the European continent. A Grand Tour could last anywhere from several months to several years. It was commonly undertaken in the company of a cicerone, a knowledgeable guide or tutor. The elites will resurrect the Grand Tour as the ultimate symbol of snobbery. The Grand Tour will merge with the marriage business, getting the sons and daughters of the global elite to meet and marry each other, and keep far from the madding crowd of plebs. Self-expression? Self-expression versus giving yourself up to a cause, people are much more interested in the former. Virtually no one has a cause these days. In the past, everyone had one. Culture and biology. How did biology produce culture? How did genes produce memes? Or was that the point of biology and genes all along? Intelligent, purposeful minds had to get bodies, avatars, to become vehicles of culture, language, consciousness, and knowledge. Genes exist solely to serve as a platform for memes. That was, in essence, Hegel's argument. The silent gods, someone said, words are of the devil. So how can there be a word of God? God is silent. It's funny the things some people say. Isn't it time for the gospel of Satan, the word of Lucifer? Hold on, isn't the Bible the word of the devil? She's